In this video I'm gonna show you how to make this little leaf design that I'm using on my Skovmærker sweater. It's created by making little loops down into the knitted fabric and a lateral braid, and up here we are creating another set of leaves, and this time to pick them up, since you're picking up from the back of the work, I'm using a crochet hook. So you need a crochet hook and you need a needle size that's 1.5 millimeters smaller than the one you're working on, or three sizes, US sizes, to create the lateral braid. All that I will explain in the video. Let's get started. So I will create the first stitch, the first leaf stitch, and the leaf stitch will sit after we finish the next row. It will sit around this first stitch. So in the chart you will see the leaf as beginning from the first stitch, when in reality it begins before. So I will count 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left needle, and then 4 rows down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I will go through this stitch, and just like you're knitting normally, but be careful to give it enough ease so it won't pull the fabric together or create a hole here. Then I just knit 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. So this is the chart as you can see it. These 2 stitches go together, so they create the leaf together. And then you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 plus the first stitch, so 12. And then you do the next leaf. So again, I begin before the stitch where the leaf starts, and I go 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 rows down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go through this stitch. I knit, I pull gently. Okay, I'm satisfied. It should be not pulling the fabric and sitting on my needle like a normal stitch. And then I continue knitting. So let me just show it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see a little closer. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go through the hole in this stitch. It's a little bit hard to show. And then you pick up the yarn, pull it up, and knit. And when you knit the next stitch, be careful not to tighten the yarn too much. Okay, and in the back it should look like this. And if you, after doing the first row of leaves, if you notice that they are too tight, then just try to redo them, because it will look much better if they're not too tight. Of course, they shouldn't be too loose either. They should be lying nice and flat on top of the work. Now you will see this gap here, but that will disappear once we knit the next row. So when we're doing the next row of stitches, we get to the leaf stitch that is lying on top of the first stitch in the chart, and then you should knit them through the back loop. That means you go in, and instead of knitting, this would be the front loop of the stitch, like in a normal way, you're gonna knit through the back loop, and you will see how the stitch is lying nicely on top of the work. Let me just do a few stitches so you can see. Okay, there you go. There you have your first leaf stitch, and as you can see, if I pull it, it shouldn't pull the fabric too much. It should lie nice and flat. And again, it's really easy to see when we get to the stitch where the loop has been pulled over there. It's lying on top of the stitch, and they should be knit together as one. And if you experience that this one is twisting a bit, it's really not a problem. You can just do like that, and it's lying nice and flat. Okay. There you go. There you have your two first leaves. Okay, so now as you can see, I have 3 set of leaves on my little swatch, and now I will, don't worry about all my floats in the back. It's because I'm knitting the swatch as if I was knitting in the round, so I'm just carrying the yarn in the back. But now we have done the 2 rows. First the rows where we did the leaves, and then the second row that is where you knit the loop, the leaf loop, and the first stitch of the chart together. So now we have to do the lateral braid, that are stitches that are lying, that create like horizontal stitches. And to do those, I'm changing to a needle size, to smaller needle size, and it should be 3 US sizes smaller than the one you used for knitting the actual garment. And I don't have a smaller needle, and I'm knitting on a size 3mm, and I have to use a size 2mm. I hope it will be okay for the demonstration of the swatch. So what you do to knit a lateral braid is you will all the time work on these 2 stitches, on the 2 first stitches on the left needle. So you start by knitting through the back loop of the second stitch, and knit through, there you go, and then you knit through the front loop of the first stitch. While they're still on the needle, you're not taking any of these stitches off, and then you can slide them both off. Then you put the second stitch back on the left needle, and then you go back and do the same. So knit through the back loop, knit through the back loop, knit through the front loop of the first stitch, and slide them off, and put the stitch back to the left needle, and go back, knit through the back loop, knit through the front loop, slide stitches off, put back, back loop, up, front loop, slide them off, and knit and put the stitch back. Okay, there you go. There you can see how the stitches are starting to form this braid. I will do it all across, and once you get to the last stitch, and when you're knitting in the round, there's a way to join them, and I have a video in the pattern that shows you how to join smoothly. Also, it explains the lateral braid a bit better. I just thought to show you a little bit as it's part of the leaf pattern. As you can see, these stitches are quite loose, and this is why you have to go down the 3 needle sizes, US sizes, or 1.5 millimeter, simply because if not, it will look, there will be these big loops, big stitches behind the braid. So what happens when you're doing the braid is that the braid is done on this row, but this row will look like normal stitches, and the lateral stitches, the lateral braid, will be on the row below. This is why in the chart it gets a bit confusing, because it looks like that the braid should be up here, but actually you're knitting the braids on this row, but you will have the stitches coming out like it's on a row below. The other thing that happens when you're doing a lateral braid is that you are shifting the stitches all the time, one to the left, and that means again it will the chart looks a bit confusing because it looks like the leaves are not spaced evenly in the chart. So you have a leaf here and a leaf here, and then you should have the other leaf here. But when you look at the chart, it doesn't look like it's in the right place. That's simply because the stitches are being shifting one from left to right. So as you can see, I just finished the lateral braid, and the leaves are coming out from just under the braid because of how the stitches are lying on the row below. And now I'm gonna knit just one row of stockinette, and then I will do the next set of leaves, and I will come back. And I forgot to say that for this row you are changing back to the bigger size needles again. So I worked the first 9 stitches from the chart, and this time we will make the loop for the next leaf going into the right side of the work. Before we were picking up from the left side, now we're picking up in the right side. And so the loop will be knit together with the 9th stitch, and this is why we are knitting it after the stitch. Before we were knitting it before the first one, this time we're making it before after the 9th stitch. So because we are pulling from the back, the fabric we have already knitted, it's much easier to use a crochet hook. So you could do it with the needle, but it's just really difficult to catch the thread. So I'm gonna count back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going down 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But this stitch you're going into now is actually the one just under the lateral braid. And as I explained before, the lateral braid is actually sitting on top of the row below the one where you did the braids. So this is why in the chart it looks like you are going under the braid, like down here, when in reality you're just underneath the stitches. And then you get the yarn, pull it through, and place it on top on your right needle and tuck it a little bit like that, and there you go. There you have the leaf. This leaf will be knit together with this stitch. So now I finished the other row of leaves, and as you can see they are sitting just in between the leaves we did and the first row of leaves. When we are knitting, when we get to the 9th stitch in the chart, oh sorry, that was the 8th, and then here you see the loop is being stopped by the 9th stitch, just as it was being stopped by the first stitch when we were going in the other direction. Then you knit these two together, and this time you don't have to knit through the back loop because it's sitting differently. So there you have it, the first leaf. And there they are, they're sitting nicely together, and you just knit them here. Just to take a look from the back, it looks like this on the back. Now you can see in the leaves how it's looking, and the lateral braid is actually nice and stretchy, so it's not a problem having it sitting on the body, and it's a very nice little leaf design. Thanks for watching.